All right, we're live. It's a special time for this week's Panther-Lair Show. Cords are all tangled up, so I got to get this corrected here. But we're on a special time, 8 p.m. start here tonight because Pitt plays a basketball game tonight, 9 o'clock. We did one of these last year where we had essentially a pregame show before a Pitt basketball game, and gotta say, I think it was a little bit looser, had a little bit more fun, just kind of didn't take it very seriously. I don't know I shouldn't say we didn't take it very seriously, but I don't know how much lasting power there is for this. But we're mostly going to be talking about a game that'll be happening in an hour, and a game that'll be happening, a game that'll be over before. Let me fix my mic here. I had the wrong one plugged in there. A game that'll be over before most people ever listen to this thing. So, it's a little bit of a unique kind of show here. I think I have everything plugged in the way I want it to plug in. I'm really trying to moderate my P's so I don't overemphasize it. I've been having some big conversations about that on the message board, so I want to really watch how I talk into the microphone and whatnot here. But anyway, we got a pregame show. Pitt-Florida State tonight. Panthers will be in Tallahassee, take on the Seminoles, who may not be very good, but they're good enough to present a challenge. We'll talk a lot about that challenge. We'll talk a lot about that game, our expectations for that game, plus what we thought about Pitt's loss to Louisville, kind of how we make sense of that. We'll bring Jim in a little bit, and I extended an invite to some friends of ours. We'll see if anybody wants to come and hang out like we did last year. That was a lot of fun, and we would certainly enjoy it if some of our friends want to spend a little time. But anyway, big game tonight, still a quad one opportunity. Florida State just barely hanging in that quad one range. They're number 73 in the net rankings entering today. And as you know, the way those net rankings work and the quad one, quad two, etc. If you play a team ranked 1 through 75 on the road, you play a road game against a team ranked 1 through 75, then you get it's a quad one game. And if you it kind of goes on from there. So Florida State was 71 yesterday. They're 73 today. Dropped a little bit. So just kind of right on that edge. But as somebody on the message board pointed out, if you're 73 or you're 76, it probably, or 77, it kind of all registers the same with the selection committee. It's not a huge difference of quad one, quad two there, just because, there is a cutoff. You're between quad one and quad two, but you're only 3 or 4 spots apart. Before we bring in Jim, like I always ask you to do, like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That way you don't miss any of our Pitt video content. Like tonight, we're starting a half hour earlier than we usually do. Typically, these shows are at 8:30 on Wednesday nights. Tonight, we're starting at 8 o'clock. You might be like, oh, I had no idea. I didn't realize you were doing that, even though you mentioned it on the Morning Pitt every day this week and you tweeted about it and put it on the message boards. I didn't know. Well, you will know if you click the subscribe button and turn on your notifications, and you'll get an alert every time we go live here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. You won't miss any of our Pitt video content, the daily morning Pitt videos, these weekly live shows every Wednesday night, some post-game shows, which we'll start getting into here on YouTube, and anything else we might do, press conferences, interviews, things like that. And of course, don't forget to check out the website, Panther-Lair.com. It's Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com to get all your Pitt sports coverage, everything you can possibly handle, all the Pitt news that you need, and the message boards to talk to other Pitt fans. And of course, on the message boards, I'm there all the time, and our good friend Jim Hammett is there as well. We'll bring him in. James, glad to have you with us this evening. I'm really trying to not hit the P sounds quite as hard as I've been doing. Apparently, I kind of like that really like blast through your speakers there when I do that.
Well, when you did it, emphasize, but I guess whenever you talk about the Pitt Panthers,
this is the problem.
Yeah,
like when your name is Chris Peak and you talk about the Pitt Panthers on the Morning Pitt from Panther-Lair.com and youtube.com/Panther-Lair. Like I'm kind of screwed. Like I'm down. I'm starting off and I'm starting from behind. You know what I mean? I'm not covering the Rhode Island Rams here, on Rhode-Island-Lair.com. It would be a lot easier if I covered Seton Hall or somewhere like that, or Marquette. Although that's a little bit of a hard sound, Marquette. What would be a good one? Cal. If I covered Cal, I could say it like that. North Carolina, Bill Belichick. That there's a lot of other schools I could cover, but me, Chris Peak, I cover Pitt, and that's just. So I'm trying to moderate it a little bit. Somebody said I could get a filter, but I don't really want to. I don't like buying things. I've had this microphone for I've had this microphone for at least 7 or 8 years, and I don't really want to replace it. It's got a thick layer of film on this part right here, which, that only builds up over time. You got to work on it. But anyway, Jim, what was I going to say? Quad rankings. This is a quad 1 game tonight against Florida State, number 73. What do you think of Florida State? They don't seem very good. Am I right about that?
I don't think they're very good. And last year, I was at the ACC tournament, and Florida State was playing, and they were losing. And I just kind of looked at Leonard Hamilton's face. I'm like, does he really want to keep doing this? Like, he's been coaching basketball since 1986. Like, at a certain point, this is going to come to an end. He's like 76 years old. He's like as old as my dad. I don't know if it's time, but it seems these past 3 or 4 years, Florida State has fallen off. I thought he had a nice little run. I think they made the Elite Eight, made the Sweet 16 back-to-back years. Then these past 4 years, they haven't been very good, and I kind of feel like this team kind of falls right into that.
But they still have that length, though, right? I mean, it's still a Leonard Hamilton team with size and length, which could be a challenge for Pitt, right?
I would think so. I mean, they do start 6'10", 6'11" across the front line. Their best player, Jameer Watkins, is 6'7". He's kind of like a longer forward. And, kind of whenever I was going through all the preview stuff and kind of getting ready about Florida State, I looked at their roster and I was like, Alir Malouk, Imani Christian, 5-star basketball player from Pittsburgh. I forgot about him, but he's on the team too, so he'll get some minutes tonight. He didn't stay with Imani last year. I think he went to like some prep school out of state, but he was at one time a big time Pitt recruit. But yeah, they have a lot of size. It's your standard Florida State team. Leonard Hamilton plays 10 guys. At least half of them are 6'10" or taller. I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, if there's one familiar thing left in the ACC, because you think about all the coaches that have moved on since Pitt joined the league, Coach K, Roy Williams, Boeheim, like Leonard Hamilton's the constant. Like, you know what you're getting when you play Florida State.
Who's the longest tenured coach in the ACC right now?
It has. I mean, he was there since 2002.
Yeah, it has to be him. Who's that? I guess I meant like after him. I mean, is it like
Keats?
Yeah, is it Keats or Brownell or
Brownell's? I bet it's Brad Brownell. He's been around for a while.
It's been for a while.
It's the football schools. They don't really make moves on basketball coaches.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think about where. Pitt Chag chimes in and says Brownell. So where does Capel? I mean, Capel's got to be up there, right? I mean, like Hamilton, Keats, Brownell. Is there someone else I'm not thinking of who's been there longer than Capel? I'm trying to run through the conference real quick in my head. Mike Bray's gone. Josh Pastner isn't around anymore. What's his name? Wake Forest. Has he been here longer? What's his name? I'm drawing a blank. Who's the Wake Forest coach, Jim?
He's short. He's bald. He's Steve Forbes.
Steve Forbes. I kept thinking Skip Prosser, and I'm like, no, there's a flaw with that thought. So, Steve Forbes. I don't know if Steve Forbes has been there longer than Capel, has he?
I don't think he has. So I'm looking him up right now. But I think for the most part, no, Forbes has been there since 2021. Capel's been there since, 18, 19?
18, yeah.
So, yeah.
Pitt Chag says Mike Young. What about Mike Young at Virginia Tech? I thought Capel coached against Seth Greenberg.
I thought he coached against Buzz.
Yeah. Mike Young came in. He got to Virginia Tech a year after Capel. He got there in 2019. So yeah, I mean, SC 717 or ZC 717 says Jim Lariniego was until he resigned, but yeah, so he's out. So that's it. So what do we conclude? Capel's the fourth longest tenure. Is that right? Hamilton, Brownell, Keats, Capel.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe, but what is this, year 6 for Jeff?
18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. This is 7.
Wow.
Look, I got balloons over that. How time flies. I can't, yeah. Well, yeah, because there were, 4 bad years, and then the last 2 years, right? 19, 20, 21, right? Yeah, so 4 bad years, the tournament year, last year, and now that's crazy that he's been here for year 7. That could kind of open up a longer conversation about where this program is and where it should be. But let's not get there just quite yet.
Yeah,
Josh, Josh Newark's making a reference to something I tweeted about earlier today. Josh says, question for Chris. I gave your 13-9 book glowing reviews, but now you've become a Pat White apologist. What gives? So this is good. My issue with overpronouncing the P's, we will now talk about Pat White for a minute. I brought up Pat White on social media today because Steve Slayton is going into the College Football Hall of Fame. Pat White is not in the College Football Hall of Fame. And per the current rules, will never make it because you have to be a first-team All-American. And Pat White was never a first-team All-American. Now, I went through the list of quarterbacks who were first-team All-Americans during Pat White's years, and it's like Vince Young, Tim Tebow, Matt Stafford. I mean, like, it's legit big-time guys, some of the best quarterbacks in the history of college football. They should change the rules, Jim, because Pat White should be in the College Football Hall of Fame. Like, there's no reason to keep him out.
No, I mean, whenever you look at it from the Steve Slayton perspective, great college running back, really good player, but like West Virginia was not West Virginia without Pat White. They changed everything. Like, I mean, like it kind of changed college football in a way. I mean, like Rich Rodriguez was the first person to do like the spread, like that's put an athletic dude at quarterback and just let him run. And like they were a problem. Like they beat the hell out of Pitt a couple years. Pitt did not run fast enough, but like then they went to the Sugar Bowl and like they beat the hell out of Georgia too. I mean, like they were great. So Pat White's one of the best like players I've seen in person in college football in my life, easily.
I believe he was at the time, and I think he's still the only starting quarterback to go 4-0 in bowl games because he went 4-0 in bowl. Now there are going to be people who are like, you idiots are 12 minutes into a Pitt podcast and you're talking about Pat White, but like Josh brought it up. It wasn't us.
Yeah.
Here, we'll bring in an expert to get his opinion on things because this is one of the smartest guys we know, our good friend Jerry DiPaola. Jerry, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me, guys?
Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Jerry DiPaola from the Tribune Review. We're very excited to have Jerry with us. Jerry, should Pat White be in the College Football Hall of Fame?
Absolutely.
It's a shame that he's not.
Just ask Scott McKillop. He'll tell you.
Scott McKillop wants Pat White to make the College Football Hall of Fame just so they can put a picture of Scott McKillop tackling him.
Right, about 50 times, right?
Yeah. Well, his big tackle was on Steve Slayton, though, the big fourth down stuff. So, Jerry, how are you? I feel like I haven't seen you in a long time.
Doing well, guys. Doing well. Looking forward to the game tonight, and I'm going on vacation tomorrow, so you won't see me for about a week.
Where are you going? Are you going on a cruise?
Yeah, to Hawaii.
What?
Yeah, we're leaving in the morning.
Wow.
We'll cover the game tonight and write a story and get on a plane tomorrow morning.
No pick Clemson for you Saturday.
I won't. I'll miss Clemson. I'll miss the Sam Clancy game too.
Yeah. Wow. So you're missing 3 games for this, Jerry? Clemson, Syracuse, and North Carolina?
No, I'll be back for North Carolina.
Oh, you're missing Clemson and Syracuse.
Yeah, we're going. It's only for a week.
Oh, okay. Okay.
My name's not Rockefeller.
No, it's DiPaola, damn it. Rockefeller is sitting out there saying my name's not DiPaola. What time's your flight, Jerry? How early do you have to get up tomorrow?
6:30 a.m. We got to go through Detroit, and then we go to Hawaii from there.
Natural
Tomorrow's
progression.
gonna be a long day.
Tomorrow, it is. But your day ends in Hawaii like 6 hours earlier than it is here, right? So you get all that extra time, and
exactly.
So, Jerry, what'd you make of the game on Saturday? This Louisville game, the big rebounding. Is Pitt that bad of a rebounding team, or was it just a bad game, bad matchup?
I don't think they're a bad rebounding team, but I think they're not a great rebounding team. And it seemed to me that Louisville were just, I don't know, hungrier, wanted it more. They went after the loose balls more, the rebounds. The last rebound, the last offensive rebound, where the Louisville guy missed a shot and it bounced right back to him. I don't know. Was there a Pitt player that could have gotten that if they had been more alert? Maybe there was. I think there are several offensive rebounds they could have gotten out of those 17 that could have changed the face of that game. And Jeff Capel was very upset after that game. You know, as upset as I've seen him in a long time. And always the answers were kind of cut short. He didn't really have much to say, and he wanted to just get on with get out of there that night, get his interviews over with, and then start working on the next game. And this is a big game for Pitt coming up tonight against Florida State. Florida State's not a great team, so it's a kind of team that you better beat if you're any good.
I think Jim might have asked Capel after the game, Jerry, but what did you make of not subbing in this, basically in the final 18 minutes? what's the logic for that? You're not getting, like, your center who plays all 20 minutes gets 0 rebounds. So it's not like you were getting that effective of play. And you can't tell me those guys played 18 minutes, 20 minutes and didn't get a little tired. Like, what?
I was a little
How can you
surprised
justify that?
because, guys like Jorge and Brandon Cummings, they Cummings, of course, had the big 31-point game a while back. But those guys have been playing okay when they've been in there for a while. Amsel Delalic hasn't played at all for two straight games now, right? Hasn't gone off the bench. I'm going to have to check next time I'm at the Pete to make sure he's still on the team.
You're going to be in Hawaii the next time they're at the Pete, Jerry. So we'll let you know. If maybe you'll see him on the beach in Hawaii, and that's where he is. So
that's where he is. But I'll maybe tonight when I watch the game tonight, I'll see him on the bench. But I'm surprised he's not playing more because he seems to have, a nice basketball IQ, as a very good shooter, 6'8", 3-point shooter. But Capel made the point a few weeks ago. He's getting adjusted from international basketball to ACC basketball, and I guess it's a big adjustment to make because he doesn't trust him out on the floor anymore.
We got a comment here about this whole not subbing thing. Pitt Chag says, I honestly think Capel was pissed at their effort and wanted to punish them. I don't know about that one. I think that's a tough sub. The game was too close. Like, if they were getting blown out by 25 the whole second half and you wanted to make a point and force them to stay on the court. But, I mean, that game was winnable the whole second half, right? I mean, it's not like it was ever really out of reach. So, I don't know. Do you put any credence in that, Jim or Jerry?
No. I think a guy like Jorge Diaz-Graham could have helped him out just because of his size. Maybe he would have gotten, one of those defensive rebounds that turned into points for Louisville. He did make one. I think he made one really nice play where the ball came down and he grabbed it very alertly and went up and scored. And he played, 1 minute, 2 minutes of that game? He'd been playing fairly well. Capel made the point a few weeks ago that he's finally healthy now. And he's healthy, but he's sitting on the bench. And I didn't get it. The thing is, we're not in practice, guys. And Capel is one of those coaches where you earn playing time, but what you do in practice. So something's going on in practice. Only the guys who aren't playing are the ones that are making him mad, or not, and they're practicing hard enough, not practicing well enough. That might be the biggest problem. So that's why he doesn't use them.
That's even more concerning if that's the case, right, Jim? I mean, like if they went through that whole second half and said, nope, Guillermo Diaz-Graham cannot help us one bit. I mean, Jim, that worries me more than the fact that they lost or gave up 17 offensive rebounds,
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. And I think I asked the question after the game. I said, you didn't really do anything in the final 18 minutes. And I mean, he gave just a quick, no, we weren't fatigued. Like, that's who we wanted out on the floor. But
he didn't like that question, Jim.
No, I think both questions I asked him on Saturday were met with one-word answers. So I've always, Jeff makes you kind of dig for answers a little bit more than Pat. So like I've always tried to be thoughtful whenever I asked my questions to Capel, and I don't want the one-word answer, but I got it that time. So I think he was a little mad. But I think you asked him on Monday, are you going to use the reserves?
Right.
And he said something along the lines of, there's opportunity if they know if they are capable of doing what we want them to do on offense and defense, there's opportunity to playing time. So obviously he was mad about some of the players and some of their efforts and, kind of what they were doing out on the floor. But at a certain point, I mean, what did Louisville finish? 9 of 11 from the field. I mean, like, you were getting torched. Like, they were blowing by you. There was nothing you could do to stop them. You couldn't even get the offensive rebound when you did stop them. So I don't know. I mean, like, just for the sake of trying something different, just for the sake that those guys look gassed, I probably would have subbed a little bit.
I'm sure he's going to sub much more tonight. Because you can't sustain a situation like that for 2 games in a row. I mean, you got to use that bench. I mean, the ACC is a grind. I mean, they got a game tonight, another one on Saturday against Clemson. I think I wrote it the next day. I think he's going to use that bench tonight because you just have to. You just can't depend on those 5 guys, especially when Cam Corn. What did he get? 1 rebound or no rebounds in the second half, something like that.
0.
Depending on him to get rebounds, he's not getting them. Get somebody in there who can get them. Get Jorge an opportunity, or Papa Conte.
Jerry, has Cam Corrin been a disappointment to you?
He scores much better than Federico did. I don't know. He's averaging 11 points a game or 9, something like that. It's not bad. No, it's too early to say he's a disappointment. Is what 15 ACC games left, right? So I wouldn't say he's a disappointment yet. Now let's see what happens against tonight, and then you got Clemson and North Carolina coming up soon. I guess Syracuse is in the middle there, but the game, the ACC isn't all that great this year. But there's some good teams. There's going to be some good, closely contested games tonight. And I think this season, and tonight's going to be one of them.
Yeah. I was thinking as you were talking about, or Jim, you were asking about, talking about digging for questions, and you have to dig in with Capel versus Narduzzi, and Jerry, you and I were not in Detroit. Jim was, for that game above Sports Bowl. And I was just thinking about a question that was asked after that game. And I think, Jim, you asked Pat Narduzzi about the fourth goal decision from the 1. And Jerry, did you read the transcript or listen to Narduzzi's answer to that question?
I listened to the news conference. Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
Okay. Can you make any sense of what he said in that answer?
He talked in circles. He really did. And,
it wasn't even a circle. It was a shape that has yet been not defined by the human race of the direction that he talked. So here's my question to you, Jerry. If you were in the room, how would you have followed up? Would you have followed up and pressed him on that particular question?
Yeah, because he really didn't answer. I mean, if we would have had time, a lot of times in those post-game news conferences, especially after a loss, you don't get a whole lot of time to ask more than 1 or 2 questions. But I think that Narduzzi was second-guessing himself. By the time he got into the news conference after the game, he's probably saying to himself, yeah, we should have gone for it. Then he turned to poor Gavin Bartholomew and said, oh, you should have ran it in and scored. Well, yeah, maybe he should have, but he sort of embarrassed the kid right there in his last appearance as a Pitt player.
It was funny, if you watch the video, and I said this to Jim before, you watch the video during that question as Narduzzi's talking. I didn't even look at Narduzzi during the video. I just watched Bartholomew and Brandon George, and they're I've never seen anyone try harder not to visually react to something.
Right.
They're just sitting there as stoic as possible. They had to be losing their mind. I mean, is there any possible explanation for why you would kick in that situation, Jerry?
No, and it's the same thing he did at Penn State several years ago, if you recall. He went for the field goal and they missed it, and they were on the 1 yard line too. But it was third and one up there in Detroit, right? Third and goal from the 1 twice. They had 2 shots at it, right?
Yeah.
And I figured he was going to, he put a trick play for third down, right?
Yeah.
Then that means by fourth down you just go and be more typical and just run it right up the middle. I just think he doesn't have a whole lot of faith in his offensive line to either protect or to either get that 1 tough yard for the touchdown. Again, it's only 1 yard, but you've seen many times over the years, Chris and Jim, that those guys can't get that 1 yard. It's happened so many times in Pitt games over the years that 1 yard is like 15 yards. And I think he was thinking that, and he figured we got this play. Let's see if it works. There was still a lot of time left in that game, right? Wasn't there? How much time was left?
That was the second overtime.
Oh, that's right. It was overtime. That's right.
Yeah. So that's the problem, Jerry, is if you lack confidence in your ability to get 1 yard, you should always make the decision that forces you to try to get it from 3 yards, because maybe you'll have better success from 3 than you did from we don't need to keep bringing it up. It's been almost a month since that game, but I hadn't talked to you about it since then. So I wanted to get your take. Josh Newark had a question for you, Jerry. He wants to know who's injured right now.
Who's injured? On the basketball team or the football
I don't know. Just anybody. Who's hurt, Jerry.
I tell you what, I'm feeling good. If that means anything.
Jerry's in good shape.
I don't think anybody has any injuries, right? Maybe if I call, I'll give Narduzzi a text message tonight and see what he has to say about it.
Derek Davis is hurt.
Yeah, that's right, Derek Davis. I remember the time that I had my wrist taped. Remember that time?
Yes.
I had my wrist taped, and the coach said, "What's wrong?" Pat said, "What's wrong, Jerry?" I said, "Coach, we don't talk about injuries."
10 years in the making. You
right.
finally got a shot. Wait,
That's
was
right.
that last year or was that this season?
That was last season, yeah.
Oh, okay. 9 years in the making. You finally
Right.
got a chance to stick it to him. Well, I think what you should do is when you're on the beach in Honolulu or someplace, take a selfie of yourself drinking a Mai Tai or something and be like, Pat, who's hurt? Or I got your injury report right here, buddy. And
That's really a good
give him the old
idea.
number one salute and say, I got your injury report right here, buddy. That would be.
I think I might do that, Chris.
You
always have good ideas.
I try. Josh also suggests that you and Pat should do a podcast. Would you enjoy that? Like, would you enjoy sitting down for 30 minutes and doing a weekly podcast with Pat?
I would if he'd want to do it and he would be, answer the questions. I don't think he would really go for it, number one, because I'd be asking him all kinds of questions he doesn't want to answer.
Yeah.
It would be fun. Maybe in the off season or maybe when I retire. There you go. One of these days I'll retire and then I'll say, hey, Pat, how about you and I do a podcast now?
I think it would probably
he retires.
Yeah, it would depend on him retiring.
Right.
I think. What do you? I mean, like, we're gonna get off on a tangent here. Let's say that day comes. Let's say it's 3 years from now, and Pat decides, or it's decided for him that he's no longer going to be the head football coach at Pitt. You see him. What's the most likely outcome? He rides off into the sunset. He takes a job. Let's say he gets a lower level head coaching job, a power 4 D coordinator job, or a job in the NFL. What do you think is the most likely scenario?
Well, 3 years from now, he'll be trying to think of his age. He'll be in his early 60s, right? In 3 years from now. Maybe he'll just want to spend some time with his family. I don't see him coaching another team, maybe a low level team if he really wants to. But I think he'll just ride off into the sunset and, spend time with his family, go on vacation and just take it easy. It's a lot of pressure. I asked him, think before the Peach Bowl, when how long he wanted to coach. And he really didn't give me much of an answer. I didn't expect one, but I think he wants to see his contract through 2030. And then after that, I could see him retiring, he has plenty of money in the bank. He's close to his family. He wants to spend time with his family. I think he's a family guy. I give him credit for that. And I think he's probably he may take another job, but I think it won't be as a defensive coordinator. It would be more as a head coach, like you said, at a lower level school.
I don't know, Jim. I could see him going to the NFL. Like a lot less. It's a lot less. Well, I don't know about stressful, but a lot less demanding time wise than college. You don't have to deal with recruiting. You don't have to deal with NIL. You don't have to deal with any GM type of stuff, which he's dealing with a lot now. You just go coach ball, right? I mean, could you see that, or are you with Jerry? You see him getting on the old horse and riding off?
I kind of get the sense that this is his last job. I really think like one day it's just going to be after one of these seasons in the next 3 years, he's just going to be done. Like we're going to get an email from EJ, special press conference tomorrow, and he's just going to be done. And I think he'll stay with Pitt. I think he'll be in some sort of fundraising role or administrative role. They'll do something for him, but like I think this is his last job. So I give him credit because you look around college sports. You see the Tony Bennett's, the Jim Larrañagas, the guys that are like, I just don't have the stomach for this. I can't do it anymore. I think he's been very adaptive to new age college sports. I think he's had good ideas. I think he's even thrown out ideas. I think he was the first person I heard. He said, let's just do 5 years of eligibility. And now, like 2 weeks ago, they're talking about like, yeah, let's do it. So like, I don't know. I think he's still with it. I still think he likes to do it. Obviously, a lot has changed for being a head coach these days, the responsibilities, but I think he's good with it. But I just think sometime in the next 5 years, it's just going to be like he's going to have a feeling, and that's going to be it.
The question I have, and maybe I shouldn't even ask this question: does his seat get hot next season? If we have another 7-6 or 6-7 season, or worse, new AD, right? Thinking about new AD.
It depends how much you can rationalize away the 6-game losing streak. I mean, you can sit down and make a good case. Lost the left tackle, lost the quarterback. When the quarterback and the left tackle were there, what was their record in games where Eli played the whole game? 7-1, I think it was, right? Because they won the 7 and they lost SMU. So with Eli, they were 7-1, but lost the quarterback, and then you had the offensive line shuffling and caused big trouble. But so it depends how much credence, how much, do you put a lot of faith in that, or do you think that's just, BS?
And it'll depend on how next season goes too.
Yeah.
And another thing is, I think he's never lost a locker room. Even the 23 season and this season, I think those kids still played hard for him. Yeah, I don't think that's a problem. I think they still like playing for him. Of course, there's going to be transfers, and they transfer for for a variety of reasons, and they have a bunch of transfers now. It's up to 18 now, isn't it? Something like that. But I think for the most part, the kids like them, and they play hard for him, and I think that's a big thing to consider. Next season's schedule is very difficult, though, isn't it? Notre Dame, is it Miami on the schedule too, with their new quarterback? It's not going to be easy. Looking at it right now, winning 8 games is going to be difficult, I think.
Well, if you set the bar low, then it's easier to clear, right? I mean, they can. If you only win 3 games, Jerry, you can more than double your win total and just go 7-6. So, there's one more question, Jerry, and then we'll let you go. We were talking. Obviously, when you first came in, we were talking about Pat White in the College Football Hall of Fame. So ZC717 wants to know, I know there are no Pitt players going in this year, but who do you think gets into the College Football Hall of Fame for Pitt next? He says Aaron Donald is the next one. Who comes to mind? I'm trying to think of who would be
Aaron Donald is a slam dunk, right?
Yeah, I don't know how you could keep him out. He was an All-American. You bought a bunch of hardware. But who else?
James Conner.
Was he an All-American? He was an All-American, right?
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? He was ACC Player of the Year.
Yeah, I know that. I think you're right. I think he was. I just trying to remember. I have my media guide here. You have your media guide handy, Jerry?
No, I don't actually. It's downstairs.
You always got to keep it close, Jerry. Come on.
It's basketball season, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I have that down there too. They're all under the desk, Jerry. They're all down there. Where's the All-Americans page? Is that in the record book or history? That's in history, huh?
Well, who was the most recent guy to go? Was it Fitzgerald for College Football Hall of Fame?
Probably, yeah.
So I'm trying to think of like the years between Fitzgerald and Donald, and there's not a lot of people that really come to mind. There was a little bit of a lull.
Even after Donald, can you think of anybody other than maybe James Conner? And that's a reach, maybe.
Well, I think if James, I think Conner can make a case. I mean, they're putting in Steve Slayton this year, and I think, didn't Conner set the ACC record for touchdowns in a season, right?
He had 1,500 yards in one year, right?
Yeah, his 2014 year was really good, and he had another 1,000-yard season in 2016. So, I think you can make a pretty good case for him. Where did
maybe we're forgetting about Kenny Pickett, but he only had really one great season, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he's a College Hall of Famer. I don't think so.
Yeah. Jordan.
But those 2 guys are the 2 biggest players, 2 most productive players at Pitt, since Aaron Donald, right?
Right. Okay. And here's the All-Americans. So recent All-Americans prior to this year, obviously, clearly Kyle Lewis is going in. But Izzy Abanikanda, Kalijah Cansey, Kenny Pickett, Cal Adamitis, Jordan Addison, Rashad Weaver, Patrick Jones, Dorian Johnson, Quadri Henderson, James Conner. Aaron, like we said, Jabal Shear, Doran Dickerson, Scott McKillop, HB Blades. This whole All-American thing, I didn't really realize this. I got to say, I was unaware of this being a requirement, that you have to be a first-team All-American to get into the College Football Hall of Fame, which is why Pat White is not in there. So just as I look through this list, no, there's not really anybody other than maybe Conner and Donald who jump out.
If Jordan Addison had stuck around Pitt for 4 years, I think he'd be probably a slam dunk for the Hall of Fame. But he only spent 3 years in college, 1 year at USC, which was it was a subpar year compared to his last year at Pitt. So these guys are leaving college after 3 years. Kenny Pickett, wasn't even an All-American. Yeah, and he was there 5 years. So
he was an All-American. Kenny was an All-American in 21. Yeah, he got at least one nod.
Not a first-team All-American, though, right?
Yeah, first-team All-American. He's on the page right here. I forget who picked him, but he was a first-team All-American by at least one selector.
You have a better memory than I do, Chris.
No, I don't.
He's the media guide.
I'm reading it right here on the page, Jerry. I'm not remembering that. I couldn't even remember if James Conner was an All-American. But Jordan Addison, though, was a consensus All-American and Biletnikoff Award winner. And we only did it in 3 years, but I think if you get a major piece of hardware and a first-team All-America, you got a
3 years enough. Is 3 years enough to be in the Hall of Fame?
Larry's in for 2. Larry Fitzgerald's in for 2, and he was only an All-American 1 year. No, I mean,
guess.
he was also the best player in college football and one of the greatest receivers in the history of the game. So it's a little bit different. But anyway, fun question. We can keep an eye on that. I mean, clearly, like I said, Kyle Lewis and Desmond Reed will be in a few years, but
In where, the Hall of Fame?
In the College Football Hall of Fame, they're all Americans, Jerry, and Desmond Reed. Kyle Lewis will probably be Buckus Award winner next year. I would say is probably a pretty good chance. I would say go ahead.
Let me get this straight. If you're first team All-American, you're automatically in the Hall of Fame.
No.
Oh,
you have to be a first team All-American in order to get into the Hall of Fame.
So you're saying that Kyle Lewis is going to be in the Hall of Fame just because he's Kyle Lewis?
His accomplishments this year, and then what he's going to do in 2025, entering the season as no, but he will. He'll be on the Buckus Award watch list and probably a prohibitive favorite, I would say, betting favorite to win the Buckus Award. And unless Rasheem Biles is even better than him, so that's a possibility too. Maybe they'll split the votes. But anyway, we have a lot of time to talk about that. Yeah,
I like Kyle Lewis. He's a great player and a great interview and a good guy. But I'm not ready to put him in the Hall of Fame just yet.
Well, you have higher standards than I do, Jerry. We know that. We've known that for a long time. All right, Jerry, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. We'll let you run. Have a great trip, and stay off your phone unless you're going to bother Narduzzi with like text messages at some ungodly hour that's like a reasonable hour for you, but an ungodly hour for him. So,
yeah, maybe I'll do that and not show my face again down at the facility after that.
Not until March, normal time. Get back in time for spring camp, Jerry.
All
right. Thank you, sir. Have a good trip.
See you at the North Carolina game.
All right. Bye-bye. All right,
see you, Jerry.
There goes Jerry DiPaola. That was fun. It's always nice to see Jerry.
He doesn't know, like, you have to get your takes off now. Like, Jerry, yes, Kyle Lewis is going to be a college football. Like, what are we doing here? This is our job. We have to make ridiculous predictions.
There's just great comments too. I think people really enjoy Jerry. Somebody pointed out that Jerry was really rocking in his chair. So he was like, Jerry, you're already on the man. Jerry was like, get off the boat, Jerry, is one comment. But he was in his lazy boy and just like, I bet he sat in that chair. I bet he sits in that chair for the entire game tonight. I bet he was already, I feel like the door was open behind him too, isn't it? I mean, it's like 16 degrees out. So
freezing.
Yeah. I wonder how cold it is in Tallahassee. Do you have any guess?
I don't. I don't know, because it's northern Florida.
Yeah, it's basically Georgia. I mean, so all right. Well, we've got a man on the scene in Tallahassee. I think he's on the scene. I don't know. Actually, we should ask him. Oh, he's not on the scene. He's shaking his head. No, Steven, you're not on the scene.
No, I'm not on the scene in Tallahassee. I'm on the scene in Lawrenceville, working with a couple different screens to cover this one.
So disappointed about this. Everybody, this is Steven Thompson for the Post-Gazette. Steven, I was really excited when you jumped in. I was like, oh, good. You're going to be like live. We got live reporting.
I thought there would be like guys like warming up in the background.
Yeah. Noah did this last year. I mean, when we did this kind of show last year, Noah was live on the scene and he checked in and he was like wandering through the catacombs of wherever they were playing that night. And I was really expecting the same thing. So, all right. Well, anyway, ZC717 says it's 52 in Tallahassee right now. So it's like 4 times as warm there as it is here. But Steven, thank you for joining us, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me. This is fun.
It's your Panther-Lair Show debut. Steven, I have to ask you something right off the bat because I'm curious about this. I was going to ask you the next time I saw you, and here it just happens to be on a live stream. But this actually got discussed on the message boards, and so I wanted to ask you about it. On Sunday, you had a nice piece on Cam Corhan, the old Sunday feature. And what a few fans couldn't help but notice is that nice Sunday feature with the headline of, Cam Corhan living up to everything that he was expected to be just sort of unfortunately came less than 24 hours after he played 20 minutes in the second half with 0 rebounds. So what I suggested to people on the message boards, and I would ask you is, was that one of those cases where it was the old Sunday feature and written in advance, not necessarily as a response to the most recent game, but just sort of something that was planned out ahead of time, and then you were the victim of unfortunate timing?
Yeah, I think I finished writing that on Friday afternoon and actually filed it Saturday morning, excuse me. So yeah, Cam did not really help my case very much in that last game. But I do think the overall point still stands. I do think that he is playing very well. He has given them something that they haven't had in a long time. Unfortunately, yeah, I didn't share that one very widely after that Florida State game, or that Louisville game. It didn't really feel very right.
Somebody on the message board said that too. They're like, well, I noticed that Steven hasn't tweeted a link to it or posted on Blue Sky a link to the article. Were you watching that game just like, God, Cam, why are you doing this to me?
Well, I was kind of like, I was more focused on the fact that, I don't know how I'm going to finish up this game story. Like, I don't know how I'm going to, because I mean, it was still like a 4-point game or something with 2 minutes left. It wasn't until after I was leaving the arena that I thought to myself, oh crap, I wrote that, didn't I?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I think the headline was a little bit more effusive than not that the article wasn't effusive, but you pointed out that, like, he had a stretch where he really was not playing like that. He was not being that guy. And I think the headline, probably, as often happens, the headline didn't exactly encapsulate what the article said. But, I asked Jerry about this. I mean, what do you, I asked Jerry, has Cam Corrin been a disappointment? I wouldn't say it maybe so harshly, but I don't know. Is he living up to what you thought he was going to be for this team?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, so this is a guy who's, averaging double-figure scoring. His rebounding's increased. I think he's now the leading rebounder on the team. He might have surpassed Ish Leggett or Guillermo Diaz-Graham. But I think especially as of late, he's been really effective as, I guess you would call it a tertiary scoring option behind Leggett and Lowe. Especially with Damian Dunn out, that's been huge to a guy who can kind of create his own shot to a certain degree, can extend the defense a little bit. But then also the shot blocking, I think, has been huge. That's something that he's added to his game a little bit over the course of this season. And like I said, the rebounding has gotten a lot better. And I think, obviously it's been kind of post-Christmas, but, the last, let's call it 6 weeks or so, I think he's really kind of been exactly what you thought an upgrade over a Federico, where, pick any one of the, pre-Fetty big men that Jeff Capel had. I mean, just the scoring has been the biggest thing for me. I feel like they needed an offensive threat from the inside. And then, the block shots and everything has been kind of a bonus. So in my opinion, Cam Corrin's been exactly what they've needed. Not that hasn't been true at all times this season, but I think on the whole, and especially as of late, that's been what they needed, and he's given them that.
Both you guys, I'm curious what you think about this, and it's another ongoing discussion on the message boards, and it has been since the summer when it became clear that Guillermo was going to be primarily a power forward playing alongside Cam Corrin. Would you guys move away from that at this point? I'm sort of buying into the idea that maybe you could still start with the current starting lineup, but then pretty much at your first sub, you just end up you alternate those guys playing center. Do you guys want those two to play together, or do you think it's time to, I don't know, maybe start alternating a little bit and get Guillermo back under the basket?
I think Jim has stronger feelings about this, so I'd let him go first.
It kind of goes with the Cam Corrin talk. And I think, one of the things they want from Cam Corrin is to be a more effective rebounder. I mean, they wanted more scoring, but they also wanted to kind of not lose what they had with Fetty. So I think a big thing with Cam Corrin is motor. I think, maximizing his minutes. So that's why these past two games, when he's playing 38, 36 minutes, that concerns me. So I think at a certain point, you look at that last game, Guillermo was on the bench for most of the second half. Zach Austin was kind of playing that 4. I think when Pitt plays their best over the past 2 seasons, it's usually with a 1-in, 4-out look. I mean, obviously Zach Austin's not Blake Hinson, but I think the team just functions better with 3 guards on the court and maybe an athletic forward. So I don't know. The way I would look at it going forward is, I know I want 15 minutes from Cam Corrin. I want 15 from Guillermo, and I play the hot hand the other minutes at the 5. I mean, like those other 10 minutes are kind of dictated on, how those guys play. So I think to get the most out of Cam Corrin and Guillermo is probably to play them less, but also in a role that kind of suits them both.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with that, and I think it has a lot to do, honestly, with the fact that Damian Dunn's back, and that you've kind of found a little bit of depth with. That I don't think you knew you would have with Brandon Cummings, and to a certain extent, Delalich. So
breaking news.
What's that? Oh, the
starting lineup. Guillermo is not starting.
Oh yeah. Oh, I guess I kind of glossed
Really?
over that. I mean,
Yeah,
Damian
just
Dunn is replacing him.
right now. Yeah, Damian Dunn starting.
So
So
the three
that
guards,
answers the
Austin and
question.
the three guards, Austin and Corin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. So maybe we could end up in a row. The only problem with rotating those two guys at center is you need depth at the four, right? Like, where does that come from? Does it come from Jorge? Does it come from playing four guards? Like, where's the depth at the four? Like, Zach Austin can't play 40 minutes, right? So, okay, you're going to start with this lineup, but then how do you rotate from there?
I mean, I don't know if they're gonna be some times where they don't play with a four, where it might just be like four guards out there in a center. I mean, Pitt's done that before. I think I like the way it gives them some more scoring options. The other thing is Damian Dunn had like 8 rebounds, I think 6 or 8 rebounds in the last game as well. So I don't know if I think Pitt has plenty of size, even if you take a Zach Austin off of the floor, if you take a Guillermo off of the floor, if you only play with one of those maybe true quote unquote centers or something like that. I think they've got enough size to hold their own in the rebounding margin. It wasn't like the Louisville game. Their problems rebounding were, oh my God, this team is so much bigger than them. Like it maybe would have been against Duke or something like that. It was, I think, mostly just like effort and fatigue. I wouldn't be as concerned, I think, with having a 4 out there at all times. I just think, the rebounding stuff, I think, comes down to guys need to go do it, which isn't exactly a satisfying answer, but I'm not sure there are like lineup solutions to that problem.
Jim, do you see somebody? I mean, like, would you play Jorge more?
I mean, I think you have to give him a shot just because he's shooting well from outside. And I mean, your two best players are Leggett and Lowe, and they're not shooting well from 3. So I think you need to find ways to get that 3-point shooting elsewhere. I mean, I think Jorge can bring that. Obviously, they use him at the 3 sometimes, which is, he's a unique 7'3" at the college level. But yeah, there has to be ways where you could still have Zach Austin start at the 4. That's your main lineup. That's the lineup you want closing games. But you have to be able to buy minutes. And like Steven said, whether that's with 4 guards and Brandon Cummings is out there, whether that's with Jorge. I mean, we haven't even talked about Amsel Dolalich, who's just like, they're sitting on a gold mine there. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of different things they can do, but I mean, it comes down to the coach trusting his players. I mean, obviously he did not trust them on Saturday, but I think tonight going forward, you have to. I mean, Damian Dunn was out for a while. You survived. You got guys to play minutes. So like everything you just did over the past 6 games without him, you kind of went away from it. So, I mean, I think it just comes back to like these guys have to play at some point.
That was the oddest thing to me about the Louisville game was I just thought back to the Cal game where like they leaned on their depth so much. And like, especially, Amsel had like 6 rebounds all in the second half that were like huge, that were instrumental to winning that game. And, Florida State and even Louisville are different challenges than Cal, which didn't have as much size, but I just don't. I never really understood why you didn't even try. Like in my mind, I was more just curious what did Capel see in practice or the last few games that led him to not trusting the bench, like Jim alluded to. Because I mean, he clearly didn't. Like that. There's no like. I don't know if you can say that there were matchup problems or anything like that. I mean, they needed some fresh legs, and Capel decided, nope, I'm gonna just roll with the same guys instead of even giving these guys a break.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand what that came from. I don't think he really gave it. Did he had some vague answer? Was it on Monday during the ACC teleconference, or was something about like, the guys who can do it or shown a desire to do it or something like that?
I think the phrase was, there will be an opportunity for guys who defend and rebound and know what we're doing on offense and defense.
So he was just really, really mad. So he was just really frustrated and really aggravated. You brought it up, Jim. I was thinking about this. When you guys see like war movies and the general is waiting to fire like the secret weapon that's going to decimate the entire enemy, but he has to get them at close range. And so he's waiting. And he's like, top sergeant is like, General, we have to fire or else we're going to lose. He's like, hold. And then finally he unleashes it. That's what Capel's doing with Amsel Delalich. So he's gonna. I thought the Duke game would be the game he would unleash it. I guess my only thought there, the only way I can sort of understand it is maybe he didn't want to embarrass Duke at Cameron to have Amsal finally go off there. He's trying to hold out. And maybe tonight will be the night. I kind of think he'll save it for the Clemson game because, Pitt has such a hard time beating Clemson. So he wants to really get them. I think he thinks they can beat Florida State without it tonight. So,
well, when they see Duke in the ACC championship game, in March, I think that's
true.
It's
true.
That would be the time to do it.
Because once you fire the super weapon, you can't. It takes a while to recharge. So
that's a good point. I hope he does. Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, we'll have to keep an eye on that. Let's see here. There were a few comments on. Willat Harris of Westwood says we should go 4 guards like that really strong Villanova team from the early 2000s. Separately, do you remember when Carl Krauser poked Alan Ray's eye out? You guys old enough to have remembered that? Did you watch that game? That was what?
I was at Madison Square
You were there?
Park. Yes.
Could you see? Because on TV in live real time, you saw this flash of white. And it was the dude's eyeball coming out of his head because Carl Krauser put a finger in it. Steven, have you seen a replay of this?
No, I'm not familiar with this at all.
One of the more gnarly, gross things I've seen. You see weird angles where a leg bends the wrong way. You see that and you're like, oh, that looks bad. This was a dude's eye coming out of his head. It was something. It was, yeah. And it was Alan Ray, not to be confused with Ray Allen, who was also very oh wait, Ray Allen.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Ray Allen.
Guy, yeah. So it was always weird to me. I'd always have to I'd be talking to my friends and be like, well, and then I'd be like, wait, which one's on Villanova? They'd be like, Alan Ray. I'm like, yeah, Alan Ray. He's wait, which one's the Celtic? Oh yeah, Ray Allen. So that was that was pretty gross. Josh Newark says, so you guys in Capel are indirectly stating effort is an issue. If that's the case for a team that missed the tournament last year, that's very concerning. I mean, so that's where I have a hard time with is as we talk about this, we talk about the rebounding issue. We talk about maybe playing 20 minutes as punishment. How can they be lacking effort? They just got their butts kicked at Duke. This is a big game, a home game, a Saturday afternoon. I don't know. And I don't think of Jalen Lowe, Ishmael Leggett. I don't think of any of these guys as really being low effort guys. I didn't think they had that kind of culture anymore. So if that's the theory we're going with, and I mean, it's as good as any other, I don't know. How does that make sense? How could this team be like that?
I mean, I think I think it's certainly possible. And you have to go inside the minds of these players to know if this is true, but I think it's certainly possible to have kind of an emotional letdown, to maybe let things carry over or hang over from that Duke game. I don't know. That's not an excuse, and that doesn't make it any better. But I think it's possible to have an effort lapse for one game, even if you aren't players or a team that has shown that throughout the year. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's the kind of thing that you can only disprove if you rebound better in the next game and the next game and the next game. So, I didn't think effort was their problem against Duke, but it was against Louisville. I'm treating it as a 1-game problem until, I see it extend to 2 games or 3 games or beyond.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at that, I mean, the thing with rebounding is rebounding's a skill. Some people are better at it than others, but a lot of it is effort. A lot of it is just wanting to go get the ball. And so whenever you have a game where you get out rebounded by a team by 14 that's not overly athletic, if Duke trounces you on the glass, then so be it. They have dudes everywhere. They're athletic. They can jump over you. That's one thing. But for a peer school like Louisville on your home court to give up 15 rebounds, when you look at it and you try to come up with the reasons why that happened, you don't really have a lot of good reasons for why it happened other than effort. I mean, I think even Jeff Capel said, when asked after the game and asked on Monday, how do you fix rebounding? He's like, we just have to go get the ball. There's no secret. There's no weird thing you have to do to be good at rebounding other than just going to get the ball and valuing the basketball. So, I mean, I don't want to say they're not trying or they're not they don't care, but I do think the Duke game kind of wore off on them a little bit more than we realized, like Steven said.
We got just a couple of minutes here, guys, before the game starts. I know we all have our own responsibilities, but the original Green did say, I love when you do the live stream with multiple guests. So I appreciate Steven and Jerry for jumping in. I was hoping Carter would show up. I sent that invite to Chris Carter, but we didn't get him. So I'll ask you guys the question that I was going to ask him if he came and hung out with us. whose collapse was more disappointing? Your University of Pittsburgh football Panthers or your Pittsburgh football Steelers this year?
Well, I think as a neutral observer to both teams, I would probably say the Steelers, just because, I don't know, it just seemed Pitt was, in a lot of ways, I think, kind of hanging on by the skin of their teeth in a lot of those early season wins. Like, they more than likely should have probably had at least 2 losses going into that SMU game, like, I think the Steelers were sitting on less precarious ground, at least in my mind. I thought that, what were they, 10-2, 10-3 or something?
Yeah,
that seemed to be a little bit more solid. And I think also a 13-game sample size gave me a bit more confidence than, a 7-game sample size.
I would say Steelers as well, just because when they were 10-2 or 10-3, people were saying like, "Oh, this is absolutely a bona fide Super Bowl contender. Like they can 100% win it all." Like Pitt collapsing was, I mean, even if they didn't collapse, even if they play a little bit better down the stretch, like their ceiling's 10-2, or like they weren't going 12-0. Like the Steelers a couple weeks ago, everyone was okay. They can win the Super Bowl. I remember even on our message boards, someone was like, "Oh, and this is why you got Russell Wilson over Kenny Pickett. Just look at this offense. Look at what they can do." And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I'd wait like a couple more weeks before I post this. Like, look at the schedule they're about to play. And like, that's exactly what happened. But yeah, I'd say the Steelers, just because like people were talking on ESPN, they could win the Super Bowl like a month ago.
Yeah, but that was stupid. I mean, like,
that
was just dumb. I mean, I don't know why people would go for that. I don't know. It's tough because like, there was definitely a house money element to Pitt's 7-0 start, like you said, Stephen. I mean, they, when the Cincinnati and West Virginia games back to back, where you're coming back from double digits down in the fourth quarter. I mean, that's atypical kind of stuff. But I feel like that sort of buys you the extra wins to get from 8-4 to 10-2. I mean, at least Pitt had the injury excuses, right? The Steelers didn't even have that. Since Halloween, those two teams combined 4 wins, 12 losses. It's been a lot of bad football around these parts, but that's how it goes. All right. Yeah, this game's about to start. I know we all have to work for it. So, Stephen, thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate it. And I don't know, are there any other 9 o'clock games on a Wednesday night?
There are a couple good 8 o'clock ones, but I don't know. I think it's slim pickings.
Let's see. Today's the 15th. So what does that mean? The Carolina game is a Tuesday night. That's a 9 o'clock game. This SMU game on February 11th. Does anybody know what day of the week that is?
It's like a Tuesday, I'm pretty sure. It
is another Tuesday. Yeah, there's no more. I don't even know if there's no more Wednesday night games at all, actually. So, oh well, guess we won't do this again. But it was fun to do it this time. So, Steven, I appreciate your time. Enjoy the game, man, and we will catch up with you. We'll see you soon, all right?
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right.
See you, Steve.
There goes Steve. And Jim, yeah, we'll wrap it up here too. Pitt Jag said there's still time left in the NC State Virginia Tech game. So there's that, but we'll still we got to prepare. We it's a Wednesday night game, Jim. Will you drink while you watch this game? Have a couple beers or
maybe a coffee? I don't know, cuz like
a coffee.
Well, like I'm probably going to like stay up and like write about this game.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to stay up and do a morning pit for tomorrow too, but I'm not going to have any coffee right now. God, I'll be up until 4 a.m. or something.
I don't know. I drink a lot of coffee especially during working.
That's true. Yeah, you always have a coffee at the games, football games and basketball games. So I hear that. All right. Well, hey, that was fun to talk to Jerry and Steve. I was hoping, or Steven, I was hoping that Carter would show up, but no dice. He's too big time for us. He's too big time.
Yeah,
but
talk about the Steelers doing something, I'm sure.
Yeah. Talk about Arthur Smith interviewing for other jobs after a completely unremarkable performance. It's amazing, how guys keep
that one. I can't
getting jobs.
The NFL loves to recycle average coaches.
They sure do. They sure do. All right. Well, Jim, thanks for your time tonight. You have a good night. Everybody, thanks for the comments and questions. It's been a lot of fun. As always, enjoy the game. Don't forget, we'll have a morning pit tomorrow. We're recapping the game. So like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We'll have all the coverage on Panther-Lair.com. And I think that's about it. So enjoy the game tonight. We will catch up with you tomorrow for the morning pit. right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.